I just want to start off. I know you've been out there talking to employees. Your executives have been talking about the aid that Microsoft has been able to give. But from your perspective, what you can see so far, how bad is this?
First of all, John, I would say, I would want to express my sincere sympathies with all those who've been directly impacted. And also a big thank you to all the healthcare workers and other critical services workers who are helping us get through this. I think at this point, the most important thing for us as a company is to ensure the safety of our own employees. That's, I think, the place where I start from. We have done everything to stay grounded in the public health guidance in every community, starting at the King County, but everywhere we operate. And taking that and ensuring that the safety of our employees is the paramount importance. And then, this pandemic has no borders, and its cure is not going to have any borders. So we have to come together as a global community, and we have to do our part. I sort of describe our role as the digital first responders to all the first responders. So if you take even what's happening with Microsoft Teams, it's become critical infrastructure for people who are doing remote work. I mean, we've seen 60x increase in Teams usage, 900 million minutes a day, and so therefore scaling. And so I'm very thankful to all the Microsoft employees who are really building all the critical infrastructure and scaling it. Similarly, we're working with CDC in their pre-screening bot, because one of the other challenges we face right now is how do we take the load off of the healthcare system? So this pre-screening bot with CDC protocols, it's being used even by Providence and others. We're also coordinating with many other industry partners, Walgreens, Kroger's, FedEx, all to bring together a coordinated solution to help in this time of crisis. The other thing that's also happening is education. We have lots of students now with remote learning, and that's another place where Microsoft's stepping up to help on how does one conduct remote learning. And one of the things that we're doing even today is taking the lessons we've always had in Minecraft education and making them just part of the base game, because when kids are at home and parents are also getting involved in helping them stay with their education lesson plans, I think this can be a step forward. So we're doing everything we can to help us work through this crisis, but it's going to take all of us.
Tell me, Satya, how are the systems holding up? How is Azure holding up? Are you able to add resources that you need to keep all of this going?
Yeah, the scale for sure is unprecedented, right? When you think about anything in software, when you have an order of magnitude change, that's a pretty big thing. And so one of the things that if there is a silver lining of any of this, is that this current architecture of public cloud and SaaS applications has that elasticity built into it. The ability to be able to scale. I mean, if this was a previous generation of data center architectures, I don't think, or software architectures, I don't think we would have been able to deal with this crisis as effectively as we have been able to. So I feel we're definitely holding up. We're seeing peak demands. I mean, even the other area we are having peak demand is even on our Xbox side. If you look at the engagements, it's even surpasses what happened even in December, which is the holiday season. So across the board, there is definitely a change in the network characteristic and scale characteristic. But the good news is that the public cloud infrastructure and the SaaS application architectures are scaling and holding, and that's great to see.
Yeah, broadband and broadband services certainly have become essential for people to get information and other physical resources delivered. You have said that the next couple of weeks are going to be crucial in how we respond to this pandemic, particularly when it comes to government. What is it that you hope to see?
I think all of us now are really grounded in how do we flatten the curve, because I think the key thing before there is either a therapeutic or a vaccine, the thing that all of us can do is to flatten the curve. That means reduce the burden on the healthcare system. So for me, what we can do to ensure the safety of our employees is probably the biggest thing. that we as a company should be doing in order to make sure that we can make sure that the burden on the healthcare system is not increasing and spiking. And so that, I think, is the most important thing. And of course, the government also has to think about all the people who are being impacted economically. Because one of the things about this pandemic is the people who are health-wise most vulnerable get impacted first. Also, people who are economically vulnerable are getting impacted right as we speak. And so in our own case at Microsoft, we make sure that the hourly workers who, for example, were doing critical functions in our campus, who now are not needed on our campus because our campus is shut, still continue to get paid. Same thing with our retail employees. We are also contributing to the community funds in Seattle area and elsewhere. And I think the government also, I'm sure, will step up to ensure that those who are impacted, even economically, are people who can get through this.
Yeah, there is some talk about lifting restrictions on, or even recommendations on restrictions for people coming back to work within the next couple of weeks to restart the economy. Is it your thinking, maybe I'm reading too much into what you're saying here, that Microsoft might well make its own decisions and recommendations about when people should come back to work based on local factors, perhaps keep people working from home for a longer time if you believe that helps to flatten the curve?
We will absolutely be grounded on what is the public health guidance in every country, every community we work in, because I think that that's the fact base that I think will guide us. That's what has guided us to date, and that's going to be the case even going forward. I think my own impression is that, observing what has happened in other regions, is that this will happen in waves. I don't think it's going to be one day that everybody comes back. I think we're going to have to do it in waves, and also to really ensure that the curve that has been flattened doesn't spike back again. Because that, I think, is going to be the key challenge, and this is going to remain with us until we have a real therapeutic or a vaccine.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of normalcy and what that might end up looking like, Coca-Cola CEO James Quincey joined us last hour and said he's focused on retaining skilled employees so that he's able to bounce back and really rebound with the global economy when we expect that that's going to happen. Is that your mindset as well, as far as skilled workers and maintaining the size of your workforce versus doing any cuts?
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft, we have a great balance sheet. We are a very diverse business. We have a mix of annuity, non-annuity that is also stronger than even the last time we went into the financial crisis. Right now, my focus is more about our responsibility as that first responder to other first responders. I think that, with all these changes, in fact, there is going to be new demand that we will have to scale to meet. And of course, ultimately, we are also going to be dependent on the world doing well for us to do well. But we will weather the storm. I mean, we are a healthy company in terms of our financial strength, the diversity of the business, the segments, the geos, the product lines and business models. So I feel confident we'll come out of this, quite frankly, very strong. But our main focus is safety of our employees, our ability to serve our customers at their time of most need, and ultimately to help the world recover and get back on a path of growth.
Microsoft President Brad Smith posted on LinkedIn, I believe, yesterday about using Microsoft's global supply chain to secure personal protective equipment that you're then going to distribute to medical facilities that need it. I believe Elon Musk has also talked about being able to procure ventilator equipment from China and bring it to places that need it, specifically the LA area. Tell me about a corporation such as yourself. You talked about the strength of your balance sheet and your global network. What you can do, even beyond technology, to help out your communities at a time like this?
No, absolutely. I mean, I was so thrilled to see that. This is about people at Microsoft raising to the occasion. I mean, this is our supply chain team that had the expertise, had the ability to work this supply issue and get it to the people who need it most. And it is fantastic to see. I think it speaks somewhat to the culture that we espouse at Microsoft, and then what is needed today across all the companies. So in some sense, it's fantastic to see both the public sector and the private sector, all of the people rising to the occasion to ensure that we can collectively work through this crisis.
I want to ask also what you're seeing in work from home equipment and perhaps the mindset about what is essential technology to keep things running. Everywhere I look, webcams are sold out. A number of laptop models are sold out as well. Do you have kind of very recent, up-to-the-day intel on how PCs are selling and what kind of spike that has been, a sense of usage versus what we've seen under normal times?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly a spike in terms of the work from home kit, if you want to call it. Also, in fact, I'll call it even the frontline kits, whether it's in healthcare and other places where there is a faster refresh cycle of equipment. What I see is intense usage. Say, one of the things that even in Teams, it's not just about video conferencing. It's about how you collaborate while you're communicating on a digital canvas. Even in the case of education, people are discovering things like OneNote Classroom as a tab in Teams, because it's not just being on video. You need to be able to even do your work. And so that's what's being driven, which is the intensity of collaboration and the productivity that people have, in fact, from being able to work from anywhere. The one thing, though, we are very focused on is what it does require. For example, a manager who's managing an all-remote team to have a new set of sensibility on how to keep the team engaged, how to check in. So we even published a culture guide to all of our managers and all of our employees so that we can sort of adjust to this new way of working, because we want to make sure that camaraderie, that ability to come together, connect as human beings while we work is there. And that's something that I think everyone has to watch. And also inclusiveness. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is to see some of the technologies like captioning all being used in order to make sure that people who need that assistive technology is in fact built in for even remote work.
Speaking of remote work, tell me, how have you been running Microsoft? What have you been running it on? You sent an email to employees a few days ago talking about working out of a home office with your two daughters. Sounds like close quarters, but how have you been able to keep in touch with your executives and keep things moving?
Yeah, I mean, again, we live, in teams. That's become the most critical. We've always been an email culture. Teams was growing internally at Microsoft for what I'll call close projects. But now Teams and Teams meetings and Teams collaboration with all the other activity that happens around it has become the place where I live. Yes, sharing the office with my daughters has been actually quite fun. In fact, I take my daughter's help in setting up all of the things around my computer, because I used to always work on my bed, which now I work in a real desk at home, which I have. And so she's helping me with all of the things that I should be doing on a desk at home, and it's been fun.
Finally, I want to ask about product launches. Maybe it's too soon to say this, but Microsoft had a number of things planned for Q4, Xbox Series X, Surface Neo, Surface Duo, upcoming products. Does it look like you will still be able to launch those as of now? Is that a goal, or is that something we're going to have to check back on?
I mean, we'll have to check back on it, but the one good thing is the supply chains are all coming back. So in some sense, right now, that is not a real issue. I think the bigger issue is what happens in the United States, in Europe, and other developed markets around the demand side of this going forward. But we feel good about where we are. I mean, in fact, you look at even how we're able to meet the demands of work from home kits. So therefore, I think on the supply side, we're getting back on rails. And the question now will be more getting the products done and then launched. Obviously, we're going to mostly focus again again on quality, as well as the situation in terms of the demand and, more importantly, safety for the people.
And finally, fiscal policy. We are awaiting some action from Congress as far as helping out workers, helping out companies. Is there any message that you have for the U.S. Congress and our government about what's needed here to sustain this economy during this time?
I mean, I think the government is doing the right thing, which is they're focused on the employees who are most impacted and the industries that are most impacted. And small businesses, because those are the parts of the economy that are bearing the burden of this quarantine and stay at home. And so therefore, anything that we can do from a fiscal stimulus to ensure that they can come out of this healthy and the employees can get back, and while they are out of the workforce are being able to be taken care of. That's the most important thing that the government can do. And so therefore, any and all plans around those is something that I would be very, very supportive of.